Tonight, St. Lucia confirms 2 more COVID-19 cases. A man housed at the VG Complex temporary homeless shelter is dead, and the budget debate commences. The details are coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Wednesday, the 29th of April, 2020. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow, Channel 117. The broadcast is also being simulcast on Kiss FM and on our Caribbean Hot FM mobile app. I'm lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. St. Lucia's COVID-free streak is over. The island, for a little over 2 weeks, had not recorded any new cases of the virus, and in fact, the previous 15 cases were all recovered and discharged. But on Tuesday, news surfaced that 2 more cases have been confirmed. The individuals have been in quarantine for some time and are said to be doing well. On Tuesday, the 28th of April 2020, results of 44 samples for people tested for COVID-19 were received. Of that batch, there were 2 positive results and 42 negative.
The first of the 2 positive results is a 54-year-old female diabetic who's a direct contact from a previous positive case and has been in isolation from April 4, 2020. She is clinically doing well. The second case is a 20-year-old male who is the son of a previous confirmed case who has also been in isolation from April 4, 2020 and is doing well. It must be noted that both of the new cases are contacts of a confirmed case and have been monitored in quarantine and isolation at the Rodney Bay Public Health Facility from the 4th of April 2020.
St. Lucia has now recorded a total of 17 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 15 of whom have recovered and been discharged from care. A total of 490 tests have been carried out to date. The ministry notes that it is still implementing its national response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and as such, everyone should remain focused and committed to reducing the spread of the virus.
Some individual measures that need to be sustained include the hygiene measures such as hand washing and respiratory etiquette, the use of homemade face masks, remaining home and away from public places when sick, and to also ensure personal hygiene and to keep homes and office spaces clean. The population most at risk would require special considerations to keep them safe and healthy. This includes ensuring control of chronic conditions, staying at home as much as possible, and facilitating the services to them as needed.
The Ministry of Health will continue to remain vigilant and maintain capacity for early detection, aggressive contact tracing, quarantine, isolation, testing, and treatment capacity. If you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, go to the nearest respiratory clinic or call one of the telemedicine physicians for guidance. If there is any need for general information on COVID-19, you can call 311 for information. The hotline is open from 7 a.m. to 12 midnight. All of these telephone services are offered to the public free of charge. The Ministry of Health and Wellness says it will continue to provide the public with regular updates on COVID-19. After receiving reports of a death at the facility housing the homeless from Castries, the Hot 7 team took to the facility to investigate. Upon arrival, they were informed that officials were refusing comment and in fact that security personnel had been instructed to escort them off the premises. However, their efforts were not in vain, as various stakeholders, having acknowledged their presence, reached out to speak out about the death of the man identified as Colin Woods. Jacques Wooding reports.
The Pierre Foundation has been heavily involved in the provision of meals and aid to over 40 homeless individuals currently housed at the VG Complex in Castries. However, behind closed doors, representatives claim that an unsavory environment is unfolding under the administration of the current coordinators of the temporary facility. By the account of Pierre Foundation leads Shamika Pierre and Dr. Abdullah Ragab, the death of Colin Woods, a homeless man from the Castries Basin, could have been avoided if he was given proper medical care. Woods, who was being housed at the VG Complex at the time of his passing, passed away on the evening of Monday, April 28, 2020. And there are many questions surrounding whether he received timely medical attention.
Day before yesterday, they drove a guy, his name is Beige, to the wellness center since last week. I think they inject the man, I think, with 7 or 6 needles, and they drop the man on curfew at 8 p.m. on the road. I saw the man on the road. We came in by the gate, I brought him in. As I brought him inside and I start serving for them the dinner, the man just collapsed in front of me. I came from a medical background. I study medicine, I finished medicine. I look at him and I got to know how to deal with that situation in my own position, on my own present. If anyone else who doesn't know or doesn't have the experience to what's it called, for the emergency needed for these less fortunate people, they will not be able to assist any one of them. And that's what happened yesterday. They have no facility, they have no one inside before the man died. Someone could have saved his life.
Ragab says he was deeply saddened with the handling of the man's death, whereby merely an hour later, coordinators had already disposed of his things and moved on. Ragab believes the developing environment at the VG complex has caused various stakeholders, including the CCC, who was providing security personnel, to pull out of this venture. Pierre Foundation founder Shamika Pierre lamented the aftermath of the removal of security detail at the facility, noting that several reports of fights, theft, and molestation have arisen since then.
You had CCC involved, you pushed them away. CCC had all their security there at the time. They did not want them. As soon as they allowed them to leave and they brought in another set of security, they have had people leaving, they have had problems, fights, they have had deaths. I mean, it's just really sad. But the people they put in place to do those things, they're not doing it.
They are not sufficient.
And they're pushing, and when they realize that they're getting news coming in, talking to Salvation Army, talking to the Women's on a mission, they're starting to push them away. So now Salvation Army is not serving food anymore. Women's on a mission is not serving food anymore. Red Cross isn't serving food anymore. All you're left with is the Pierre Foundation, and trust me, I'm hanging on by a thread.
Dr. Ragab believes that deliberate efforts are being made to divert the media from investigating activities at the facility. He cited the casting out of various persons during a recently attempted activity.
We made barbecue for them about 2 weeks ago. I call Amba. I myself call Amba. You know Amba, the Dendry segment guy. And he is in the disaster committee of Dendry. I call Amba and I told Amba, come. We want to do something. We want to do a small video for us to ask the people to donate. Just to release some frustration or release some from the government, because the government have a lot of things to take care after. You got it? We will ask the public, like the human, anyone in St. Lucia, to ask them to come and help us or to assist us in that. So what happened when the man reached there? Davis Paul Garabox, he came and he, hello, I don't want no media there. Let the man get out. He's my friend and he came to assist me to improve the situation for these people who are staying there and no one paying attention to them. We're trying to push something forward and making everyone in St. Lucia be aware of what we are doing. The man was against that, totally against that. And he even cursed me, and he cursed my father-in-law, which is Mr. Wilfred Beer, and I have the video with me.
The Pierre Foundation is calling on the Ministry of Social Transformation to investigate the operations of the homeless care facility. Jacka Wooding, Hot 7 News.
Tourism Minister Dominic Fede on Wednesday told the media that the government is strategically planning how it can repatriate St. Lucia nationals who are stranded on cruise ships and even students. He says the government is doing everything in its power to ensure that the nationals are returned. However, he says the government needs to be very cautious as well, given that health and safety protocols must be followed during this COVID-19 pandemic. Genevieve Gonzaga reports.
St. Lucian nationals all over the world are wondering when they will be allowed to come home, seeing the effects that COVID-19 is having on countries all over the world. Understanding that to repatriate everyone will be costly, particularly during a time where the country cannot afford to spend excessively, Tourism Minister Dominic Fede has assured the estranged nationals that the government has ongoing plans to ensure they come home safely and all health and safety protocols are adhered to.
So we're planning a very strategic look at this to make sure that we have enough quarantine facilities. I don't know what the public health requirements are of St. Kitts.
Fede says the repatriations will be done in phases to ensure the island's quarantine facilities are not overwhelmed.
What we are doing is a phased approach to bring them in batches of 200. which is in keeping with the quarantine capacity of our country, so that we can ensure that the cruise workers come home safe with their families.
The minister says a lot of work has been going into the discussions to have the stranded cruise ship workers brought home in the shortest possible time.
We're working hard with the cruise lines. We've been applying a lot of pressure both at the diplomatic level and at the level of business to ensure that we bring them home in the shortest possible time because we are very concerned about their plight.
Minister Fede confirmed that the island is very close to bringing in a second batch of cruise ship workers. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzaga.
Unions have been presented with the government's position on moving forward after the initial proposal of partial salaries in cash and some in bonds. The unions are expected to give feedback at the next meeting with Labour Minister Stephenson King. Minister King says he believes the response will be favorable as both parties understand the dynamics of the current situation brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Genevieve Gonzaga reports.
On Tuesday evening, unions were presented with the government's position with negotiations on proposed salary cuts. Labour Minister Stephenson King says the unions have asked for time to deliberate and are expected to present an answer by Monday in order for a determination to be made. King says the issue of cash flow as a result of COVID-19 has been echoed repeatedly, and unions have been asked to understand that different modalities have to be agreed upon to ensure the government remains in accord with the collective agreement.
What we have said to them, we need to find a way to continue to honor our agreement, the collective agreement, but developing different modalities that will allow everybody to be able to receive their salary, but in a modality that doesn't mean total cash. On the back of it, that the government have already spoken to the banking institutions and other financial institutions like credit unions, asking them to honor the bonds so that the individuals, public officers, can probably offer those bonds to the banks and say, can you use those bonds to meet my obligations?
King says the issue is finding a way to ensure everyone is paid when the cash flow of the country has received significant hits.
Just imagine the government on a monthly basis would have revenues at $110, $115 million per month, sorry. That has gone down now based on our information for the month of March and April particularly. The revenue of the country has gone down to about 42 million. So from 120 to 40 million is a tremendous decrease in the revenue of the country.
The Labour Minister says during such a time, sacrifices must be made for the greater good of the country. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzaga.
The debate on the government's $1.6 billion budget commenced on Wednesday.
The forecast is comprised of $924.92 million in recurrent revenue, $10.8 million in capital revenue, and $106.98 million in grants. Grants receipts are expected to contribute an additional $59.14 million compared to 2019-2020 outturn of $47.84 million. This significant increase is primarily due to progress made over the last year toward initiating procurement for two major grant financial projects. As it relates to the recurrent revenue, inflows are projected to decrease by $188 million relative to the approved estimates of 2019-2020 to reach a total of $1.019 billion for the fiscal year. When compared to the outturn of the preceding year, recurrent revenue decreased by $137.4 million, or 11.8%.
In the post-COVID period, tax revenue is projected to decrease by $149 million. But we are projecting taxes on income of $223 million. What companies will be paying these taxes? Considering that we underperformed on the 2019 projections and we did worse than 2018. 2018 was better than 2019, Mr. Speaker. It shows that the economy underperformed in 2019 because 2018's performance was better, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what is most interesting, in there continues to be provisions for VAT. And if you look at it going forward, you will see that the government continues to make provisions for VAT. 5 to stay alive is dead, Mr. Speaker. 5, elimination of VAT, reduction and elimination of VAT is dead.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, members of the Southern Minibus Association meet and decide not to resume service. The IMF makes a sizable contribution to 3 Caribbean countries in aid of the COVID-19 fight. And members of the government and opposition weigh in on parliamentary conduct during the throne speech. We have that and more coming up after the break.